Hi there, and welcome to Year 6 English Comprehension. This particular task is on the Great Stink. So let's have a read of this and see what happens in this particular non-fiction exercise. So the year was 1858 and London was baking hot. An unusually hot summer had dried out much of the River Thames. Unfortunately, this happened at the same time as the aging sewers were still pumping all of the city's waste into the River Thames, in other words. Only now it wasn't flowing fast enough to take it away. The tremendous amounts of effluent discharge from the factories that had sprouted up during the Industrial Revolution only made the problem worse. Back then, people thought that diseases were caused by miasma, a type of bad air. As the sewage and factory waste began to heat up and rot, it started to smell. Even then, people didn't realize that it was the cause of diseases in the city. There were 3 outbreaks of cholera, an often fatal illness caused by bacteria in the water, before people started to realize that the waste in the Thames may be to blame. The hot summer and stagnant river had made it a perfect home for the bacteria. It wasn't until the smell grew so bad that the Houses of Parliament curtains had to be coated in lime to mask the odor, and people refused to leave their homes. The plans were made to solve the problem. In fact, the issue had been around for a long time. London had been using the Thames as a dumping ground, as well as its main source of water for hundreds of years. As far back as the 1600s, people realized that this was a bad idea, but they had no idea what to do about it. Instead, they just carried on as they always had. The Great Stink finally gave them the impetus that they needed to take particular action. The River Thames is a river that runs through London. One of the first ideas was simply to move the Houses of Parliament so that the government didn't have to put up with the stench. Obviously, other members of the public were less keen on this solution. It took a civil engineer named Joseph Bazalgette, his surname is pronounced Bazalgette, okay? So to come up with a solution that worked. Up until then, all the waste was dumped onto the shores of the river. It relied on the tides to wash it away. Part of his plan was to create new embankments where the sewers could dump the waste into the deeper parts of the river. As well as this, Bazalgette designed an entirely new sewer system. This included pumping stations to lift waste from lower areas into the main system. He would also arrange areas to dump the waste that were beyond the limits of the main city's water sources. Perhaps even more impressive was the fact that he understood how much London was still set to grow, and he designed a system that could handle that much waste. In fact, Bazalgette's sewers were so well designed that they still handle most of London's sewage today. Cholera outbreaks stopped in the city of London, and he is thought to have saved more lives than any other Victorian official. There you go. Joseph Bazalgette, that's how you pronounce it, and an engineer of his time that basically cleaned up London, saved so many lives from cholera diseases and outbreaks, and cleared up the Great Stink. So have a read of this particular again on fictions, because it's